When you think of your childhood, what do you think of? Pokemon, the anime, the movies, the card game? How about Nintendo, N64, Super Smash Bros., Mario Party minigames that had you and your friends screaming at each other? Although these all played a role in my life growing up, nothing screams a 1990s childhood to me quite like Goosebumps. Good googly moogly, where do I even begin? Well, perhaps a quick history lesson for those not familiar with how it all began. Goosebumps is the brainchild of R.L. Stine. Growing up, his dream job was to be a comic book illustrator. After being made fun of by his classmates for his lack of drawing ability, he quickly became discouraged and turned to writing. Stine would spend hours alone in his room brainstorming and typing out comedy jokes on an old, dusty typewriter he found in his attic. His schoolmates loved them. It became such an overwhelming distraction that he was told not to bring any more of his homemade books back to school. Stine would end up being hired as an editor at Scholastic and eventually started his own humor magazine called Bananas, which lasted for over 10 years. While out to lunch one day with the editorial director of Scholastic, she brought up to Stine that earlier in the day she'd gotten an argument with someone over writing scary novels for teenagers. Knowing Stine's ability to produce stories that entertain people, the editorial director challenged Stine to write a book called Blind Date. That's all he had to go off. Stine visited a local bookstore to check out some other teen horror books and see the cliches and stereotypes that he could avoid when putting his own spin on things. 4 months later, Blind Date was released and became a #1 bestseller. 1 year later, he wrote another horror story for kids called Twisted, which also became a #1 bestseller. From a weird whirlwind of circumstantial events, Stine was able to successfully put his finger on the pulse of a new and emerging category of literature becoming popular worldwide. With more success came more responsibility. 2 years after releasing Twisted, Stine debuted the Fear Street series. To no one's surprise, the books were a hit. Following the success of Fear Street, co-founder of Parachute Press, John Warcha, convinced Stine to write horror books for an even younger demographic. Stine agreed, and thus Goosebumps was born. Isn't it weird to think that R.L. Stine went from writing comedy magazines to writing horror stories for little kids? I guess sometimes life does have a weird way of surprising us when we least expect it. Stine himself has always been very peculiar to me. I'll watch him talk in interviews and he's so relaxed, easygoing, and in a state of zen. He seems like the last person who would have fun freaking out kids. Go look at his Twitter account sometime, you'll see what I mean. He also has and hasn't aged remarkably well. Stine has looked like he's 70 for about 30 years, but hasn't got a day older since. He got old looking fast, like incredibly fast, then stopped aging once the 90s rolled in. Kinda like Will Smith, but not to that extreme of a degree. Pinpointing the precise moment when Goosebumps really took off is difficult. From what I can recall of my elementary school days, the Goosebumps books were just always there. I got hooked fast. I had the books, toys, VHS tapes, clothing, anything with the word Goosebumps on it, even Pogs. Though I have no clue where they are right now. I remember these two specific toys scaring me all the time when I was younger. My dad would spin them right in my face and I would run away screaming, wailing, flailing, and crying. Why did I enjoy these? It seemed as if every kid, myself included, owned at least one Goosebumps book. You could often spot a kid reading one during class, in the library, or outside during recess. These books had the coolest covers. Hold them up next to any other kid's book from that time period, and you can see exactly why they stood out from the crowd. Every cover was the perfect visual appetizer of the story within. Some looked creepy, some looked funny, but all have an eerie aura surrounding them. Getting hairy? Yikes. That sounds very scary and would actually suck. Good thing I'm a kid and that will never happen. My hairiest adventure? Stine, come on, really? Outside the core series of Goosebumps books, there was a couple other side features. The Give Yourself Goosebumps series allowed the reader to choose their own adventure, pick what path they wanted to go down, and see the end result of their actions. Holographic covers and over 20 different scary endings per book? Ooh. As a kid, nothing's scarier than being scared, and these books did just that. These had near endless readability. Win or lose, every result was bound to have your jaw hit the floor. If you haven't held an actual paperback book in years like me, do yourself a favor and take a good fat whiff of that bad boy. I've never had a smell so distinctly take me back in time before. It's almost as good as smelling a new game after freshly opening it. It's heaven. We also have the Goosebumps TV book series. These books are loosely based on the episode of the same name, which are loosely based on the books of the same name. Whoa. Well, I guess we've come full circle. They're not a one-for-one copy-paste of what happens in the episode, but it's pretty close. I'd say like 70 to 80% of the episode dialogue and scene structure is here in the book. So what are you going to do? Use dolls to act out a story from the X-Files? If you must know, Beth and I are doing the life cycle of a robin. We have a nest and eggshells in our super cool paper mache model. You see where I'm going with this. What a weird concept though, right? A book about a TV episode with pictures of said episode in it. Man, whatever. Beggars can't be choosers. All this book makes me want to do is watch the damn episode, so I think I'll do just that. Ah yes, the Goosebumps TV show. My personal soft spot of the franchise. Always part of the after school routine. Catch the bus home and watch the Pokemon and Goosebumps episode recorded on the VHS tape. There's so much to talk about this show, and in almost every facet of it too. I could make an entire video talking just about the Goosebumps TV series. Even though I watched whatever random episode aired on the regular, most of my time was spent watching the VHS tapes. I don't know how these things are still in functioning condition. I must have watched every single one of these tapes at least 100 times, no troll. I remember at one of my birthday parties, 2 separate friends got me the same VHS tape as a present, The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. Talk about awkward situations. I remember convincing my teacher to let the whole class watch Night of the Living Dummy Part 3, in time with the Halloween season, and everyone chanting, "Rocky! Rocky!" during the notorious end fight sequence. I remember watching the scene from Bride of the Living Dummy of Slappy simply standing in the doorway, scared to death of how I'd react if I were in that situation. That scene left such a permanent image on my mind, I legitimately conditioned myself to sleep facing away from my door in fear of seeing that creepy dummy standing in my own doorway staring me down at night. It wasn't until after high school, many years later, where I found out many of the episodes not released on VHS were put out on DVD. I was heading out of a flea market after a long, uneventful day of finding nothing. Right beside the exit, I spotted an old man quietly tucked away in a corner with a single table of DVDs. I can give this last table a quick glance before I head out. Boy, did I hit the jackpot. This guy had what felt like every episode that ever came out on DVD. See, as much as I love Goosebumps, when its popularity slowly faded away from the mainstream, my complete obsession with it did as well. Seeing modern makeovers of lost treasures made what was old feel new again. My love for Goosebumps became reborn. Me and my friends would spend hours watching these discs back to back to back to back to back. The same day we had a full run viewing of every Goosebumps DVD in a single sitting, JonTron uploaded his first Goosebumps video. It was like the stars aligned. Each disc has 2 to 3 episodes on them. The ones that have 2 episodes are 2 parts from a single episode, and the discs that have 3 episodes are 3 different stories. Should you ever watch the Goosebumps TV show, there's actually a ton of good stuff here. A lot of them still hold up in quality surprisingly and are pretty entertaining to watch, though there's nothing all that frightening about them anymore. The only TV series where you can go from zombies and mummies to being a slave in a school and flowers telling you they're your father.
Margaret. Margaret, help me. Please help me. I'm your father. I'm your real father.
Oh, I'm your father.
No, I'm your father.
Like I said, at some point in the future, I'd definitely like to discuss these Goosebumps episodes in further detail, because it really does deserve its own video. But for now, I'd say watching any episode that came out on VHS is a safe bet to make sure you're watching something decent from the series. One thing I don't think many people know about the Goosebumps show is that most, if not all of it, was filmed in the Great White North of Canada. Almost every actor and filming location is from or based in Canada. The spooky, mysterious tower featured in A Nightmare in Terror Tower is Casa Loma from Toronto, Ontario. In Attack of the Mutant, you can clearly see the CN Tower, also in Toronto, Ontario. The school in the Phantom of the Auditorium is Lawrence Park Collegiate Institute, which is located in, take a guess, take a wild guess. Yup, Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Seriously, if you do a quick Google, or better yet, detailed IMDb search, you'll be shocked at the amount of Canadian places and people in this show throughout its 3-year existence. Just another thing to add to the list of things to thank us Canadians for. Goosebumps, Poutine, Rush, Tim Hortons, Jim Carrey, Nickelback, Avril Lavigne, Justin Bieber, Tom Green, wait a minute. Of course, this wouldn't be a live-action television show from the 1990s if we didn't have some corny acting and cheesy dialogue. Most of which comes from child actors, so it's a bit excusable, but it doesn't change the fact of the matter. There is so much post-production voice dubbing for these kids. I understand that you gotta do what you gotta do, but it's distracting whenever puberty decides to rear its ugly head. I can't just make fun of some innocent children without giving a proper tip of the cap to the adult actors that play their role well. Almost all of them do a great job of having that authoritative presence that would worry a child. The ones that do come off as bad performances are usually because of the cringy role they're given, not the individual's lack of acting ability. Like, what is Adam West doing in a Goosebumps episode? Yes, the real Adam West. Not a guy playing as Adam West, the Adam West himself. Canadian icon Don Cherry also makes a special appearance in the episode Don't Go to Sleep, although I'm not sure if mentioning Don Cherry is really something worth highlighting. Goosebumps video games are another thing that exists, believe it or not. Luckily, or unluckily for me, I've never had the pleasure or misfortune of playing any of them. I have managed to see gameplay videos for the vast majority. They all look like something that can be sold at a garage sale for $1, even if you held someone up at gunpoint. Bland graphics, generic looking gameplay, no charm or character whatsoever. A shallow shell of itself. I can't say I'm surprised, but I can say that I'm mildly disappointed. A lot of these lack a Goosebumps twist to them or presence. These could have no association with Goosebumps whatsoever and the quality wouldn't change one bit. When you slap such a prestigious name like Goosebumps on something, there's immediate expectations. When they fall short, it's not a pinch of salt in the wound, it's the whole salt shaker in the wound. I've talked about stuff like this before. Check out my Mario, Zelda, and expectation videos for more of what I'm talking about here and why it's so crucial to video games. Like every other series that hit popularity at some point during Earth's existence, Hollywood thought reviving Goosebumps for some nostalgia-fueled profit was a good idea. This wasn't the first time this was planned, however. In 1998, Tim Burton was linked with directing a possible Goosebumps flick for the silver screen. Oh my, could you believe if that was a thing that actually happened? If that was a thing that actually existed that me and you could talk about and discuss with one another? Almost sounds like a too good to be true scenario. Sadly, the film never came to be. Instead, we received the 2015 revamp of the series, appropriately titled Goosebumps. The film was directed by Rob Letterman, best known as being the director for Shark Tales and Detective Pikachu. When I first heard that Jack Black was cast for the role of R.L. Stine, I was playfully excited but worried at the same time. Jack Black is an incredibly skilled and talented actor and one of the greatest comedy actors to ever live. School of Rock, The Pick of Destiny, Kung Fu Panda, King Kong, Nacho Libre. Well, we can really do without those last two. You see where I'm getting at, though. Having a super high profile celebrity featured in the Goosebumps movie was the best thing I could have hoped for. Now I knew it was at least going to have some effort put in, and not be a blatantly lifeless, uninteresting cash cow. Does the shoe fit? Is Jack Black the right person for this role? Despite his skill in acting, I was concerned. Whether he likes it or not, Jack Black will always have the tag of being the funny man. It's practically inescapable for him. This reputation that ceases to escape him soon gave my overall optimism a pinch of caution. It goes without saying that opinions on movies are different for each person, but I really feel that the Goosebumps movie was a massive letdown. Not a bad film, mind you, but very mediocre and nothing to write home about. All the blood can't be placed on Jack Black's hands, mind you. That'd be unfair and too arrogant of me to say. My fears were true, though. Goosebumps went from being a fear-inducing, spine-chilling scarefest for kids to a circus show that results in no laughs. Instead of the scary things being scary, they just exist as fodder added to the cluster of, oh look, a Goosebumps thing. They have no soul, no character, no realism. There's almost nothing scary about them. In the TV show, the monsters, freaks, and villains looked realistic and at the very least could give off some creepy vibes purely based on that. Nothing here looks frightening. Nothing here is frightening. The humor here is so dry, predictable, and unfunny. Most jokes, if you can even call them that, come across as the worst of what dad jokes have to offer. Not only does this not feel like a Goosebumps movie, this didn't even need to be a Goosebumps movie. There's so little of a Goosebumps influence on this, I almost feel insulted. Everything that made the Goosebumps TV show great, the character bonding relationships, the eerie suspense, the fear of the unknown, the creativity, it's completely gone, with not a trace of it anywhere. This movie is such a disingenuous representation of what Goosebumps was when it was good. To think that this movie was targeted towards kids who will have this as their first impression of the Goosebumps series almost makes me sick. This isn't a bad movie, this is a bad Goosebumps movie. The acting is fine, the CGI and special effects all look pretty neat, it's passable. Most things are at least executed well. It's simply not true to its roots and completely ignores the source material. I know this is kind of a sour note to end on, but Goosebumps to a T is that roller coaster that has its highs, its lows, its twists and turns, but ultimately comes to a grinding halt. The peak popularity of Goosebumps is all but long gone, and the attempt to bring it back from the dead was as sad as the ending to Endgame. The books and TV show that brought out the best of the best that Goosebumps had to offer are still stable in their quality. They can still be enjoyed now, just make sure you're hungry for some cheese and you won't be hungry when it's all said and done. I may never get something new from Goosebumps that makes me feel the same way it did many years ago, but the memories I have, they'll last forever. That's something that can't ever be replaced. Hello everyone, welcome back once again to the, I guess now, the per video lead thing of me talking on an end slate. I couldn't be any happier with the final result on how these two, October Halloween themed videos turned out, and I hope I can do it again next year and make it like a yearly thing, because I had a ton of fun doing this, and it was, I thought they turned out pretty good, and I hope you guys really enjoyed them too. So the video on the top is the Monster by Mistake video that I did. If you guys have not checked that one out and want to, feel free, go ahead. Video on the bottom is my Nintendo 2DS memories video. Found my Nintendo 2DS earlier this year, immediately got flooded with nostalgic memories, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna make a video on this, so I did. And yeah, more videos in the works, of course. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, night, afternoon, wherever you are, whatever you're doing. And take it easy, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace. It was fucking weird.